Before we get started, it'd be great to know how many of you are in B2C-oriented marketing? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you are in B2B marketing? Yay. All right, a little bit more. That's what you'd expect in Silicon Valley. So before I get started, before I introduce my panel, I want to throw up a couple slides about MarTech and the evolution behind it. And what's really amazing is that how things have changed, as Chandler pointed out. So if you look at this, right, if you look at 2011, this is the Scott Brinker market map from chiefmarketingtech.com. And what you see here is there's about 150 different companies. And all of a sudden in 2012, there's a few more, 350 companies in this MarTech space. Now, 2014, 1,000, things start to really take off, right? 2015, it's 2,000, and now today, 3,874. And I bet you that doesn't even count how many folks are doing things in-house and doing all kinds of integration. As he pointed out, there's this gigantic map of different companies. And what he did was, in his analysis, Scott's analysis, he said that before everyone he felt that there'd be platforms and clouds and everybody would build off of them. But because of so many different connectors and integration capabilities, there's actually now, he broke it up into basically 6 different areas: advertising and promotion, content and experience, social and relationship, commerce and sales, data, and then management. So all kinds of companies in all sorts of areas, really interesting. Then if I pulled another one for those who are in the B2B technology market space, and this is from Serious Decisions, a pretty well-known B2B technology consultancy. And in that one, as you can see, there's about 30 different marketing-oriented applications and about 26 sales ones. So just a variety of different capabilities, everything from managing display to your marketing automation system to your analytics, predictive lead scoring. As the next panel, we'll talk about AI capabilities in all these different software platforms, so it's just a lot to talk about. So setting that up as our context, I wanted to now move to our panel and then have them introduce themselves to you, and maybe talk about what gets you so excited about your job. Start with Rana.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rana Singh. I am Senior Director of Global Digital Marketing Operations and Analytics. My name is short, like North Indian names, and my title is like the South Indian title. So to Rajiv's question, he asked about how do I feel about the landscape. As a practitioner, I feel like a kid in a candy store. So many things, so many interesting tools and technologies that the companies are building, solving each problem that we face on a day-to-day basis. So very fortunate to be here and talking about marketing technology and the digital transformation. The company I work for is Thales. I am in the cybersecurity division of Thales called Thales eSecurity. And Thales is a security, transportation, and defense. Yeah, they do a lot of defense contracting work. So I take care of the digital marketing there. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of tools and toys there for helping to protect the world. Amisha?
Hi, I'm Amisha Gandhi, and I work at SAP. It's a large software enterprise company. We do B2B software, and I run influencer marketing at SAP. And so in my role, what I'm looking to do is really to connect our influencers, whether they're partners, customers, or experts and thought leaders in our customer buying journey, and find ways to create either programs or content, but a connection point to create some authentic touches with our customers. And what gets me really excited is creating something new. So influencer marketing is a relatively new practice. It's picking up speed. So there's a lot more tools coming. So I know that today, if I don't have a tool now, I know it's forthcoming. So that's something that's exciting when you think about the MarTech space. I know because I get a lot of emails now, more than I did last year, even from different types of vendors. And it's always interesting to take a look to see what they're doing and how they're trying to make this practice more relevant and have a little bit more analytics behind it.
All right, Tae-hee.
Yes.
Tae-hee, we saw that many companies and probably more. Why do you still invest in this?
You know, I'm really excited about what's going on in this whole, I don't think about it so much as marketing, but the whole go-to-market strategy, technique, people, all that is going through so much change right now. And it's just an area that I'm quite excited in. So a quick background, I'm one of the founding partners of Storm, been investing for 17 years. I made the first investment in Marketo in 2008 because I had invested in some companies, and I remember coming out of board meetings feeling like, why are these companies not doing well? As people always said, I can't get enough qualified leads. So after hearing that repeatedly after a board meeting, I thought, well, why not invest in the company that will help generate qualified leads? And so then that led me to look at different marketing automation companies, and then invested in Marketo in 2008. And then through that investment, and then watching experts like Chandar and others, and just sort of watching them through what they're going through, can see that this whole go-to-market space is going through such change that the 4,000 that you see, I think there's going to be even more change along the way. Just the fact of like influencers somehow need to be embedded within the company's entire go-to-market strategy. So it's just been a fascinating journey for me, as sort of firsthand watching people come in, sort of, and then changing the whole go-to-market landscape.
That's awesome. So Rana, you've been at multiple types of companies, early stage as well as larger types of companies. I wonder if you could just talk about how the views or the different kinds of capabilities that you use in digital marketing have evolved over that time.
Yeah, sure. So I was with a company called Vormetric, and we just got acquired last year by Thales. And we were a very small, mighty team at Vormetric. I started 5 years ago, in fact, last week. Actually, this week, I completed 5 years. HR didn't come to me, but that's okay. So we were, I think, about 4 or 5 people to begin with. When I got there, our website was a HTML website with no CMS, zero CMS. We had Salesforce and we had Marketo, and probably maybe 1 or 2 other tools. So about 4 or 5 tools. And as we grew over the last 4 years before the acquisition, and even now, so now we are about 45 people team. We grew tenfold. Our tools also grew tenfold. Like now we have 40 plus tools that we use.
That's a lot of tools.
Yeah, that is a lot of tools. I mean, so imagine all the marketing operations and marketing functions, and look at that process. And we've been slowly and surely, automating each function. Right, like I'll give you an example for you. So right when the marketing department, the other, let's say the product marketing or the field marketing, they make a request for a change on the website, or they want to send an email. They were just sending emails to people. We put in place a ticketing system. We used what the customer support guys use. We use Zendesk as a ticketing system. So any request coming from web goes to the web team. Any request coming for email goes to the Marketo team. So we kind of automated that request process. The requester knows where his request is, at what status. They can go and log in and see. At the same time, we are not going crazy with all the emails coming in, and we can manage it through that.
Oh, that's awesome. Amisha, your background is you actually came through marketing communications, right? And this whole influencer marketing area is a new area. It's actually something that Chandar actually hit up or talked about earlier. I wonder if you could just talk about that evolution.
Sure.
And then the kind of capabilities that you use as part of managing that.
Sure. So we started influencer marketing last year at SAP, and so it is a new practice. When we think about influencer marketing, there's also influencer relations, so that is more of a communications function where you're reaching out to third-party experts to get coverage or to be included in articles where they're writing and spreading their thought leadership, and you want to become a part of their thought leadership. And then influencer marketing is where you really work and develop a relationship with a third-party expert. It could be an industry analyst that's not in your analyst relations program because it's an independent firm. It's independent business consultants that are actually implementing the technologies. They're authors, academics, thought leaders. So those are the people that you're looking at, and these are the people that your buyers and customers aspire to be or look up to, if you will, as experts. So we look at those folks and say, how can we work with them to really reach our buying audience, whether it's through some sort of content. So we've done ebooks where we bring in thought leadership, these experts in, and they will, write articles or work with us and give us quotes, and we put together a nice package where, CIO could take a look at it and walk away with some lessons learned or what the market is thinking about, what they should do when they're thinking about something like digital transformation. So that's how we work with influencers. They can be speakers at events. They can come in and roll up their sleeves and really talk to our customers in a way that we can't, and it's very authentic. So they're not there to sell my product or brand, but they're really there to talk about the issues that's on the hearts and minds of our customers, and then we benefit obviously from influence by association. So that's really the true practice of influencer marketing, and it's changing. There's B2C and there's B2B. So in B2C, the sales cycle is shorter, so an influencer, you can see the immediate impact of a sale. If you're selling razors, you're going to see, well, all these people are talking about my razors, and now there's there's a direct impact. In B2B, the sales cycle is a bit longer, so we look at it, the different touch points where we could, whether it's an ungated asset or a gated asset where you're getting some sort of registration. So there's, and then you do these programs, and then what is the results of the program? So it's fairly new. So people were looking at social media. Oh, all these people have these great Twitter following, Instagram, whether you're B2B or B2C. Do we take that into account? And then once, when you look in B2B, when they're in the sales cycle, how do you really prove that it actually, the lead that you brought in from this program went through? So you're looking at, first, and then how do you find these people? They're not just, just floating out there. And there are people that say they're influencers and they're not. So how do you really find those trusted people in a topic? So we use a tool called Tracker. There's another tool called Onletica. There's so many tools that help you identify and track, and find these influencers. So you need something for that. You need something for the results. So there's some of that in our tool that we currently use. And then there's Sprinkler, which helps you do listening. So we get social media listening to see, how other people are picking up the stuff that our influencers are doing. Then you look at, once it gets to CRM, what happened in the journey. So we have our own, own CRM, but then we also have things like, people can use Marketo or they can use SAP Hybris and see what the journey was of the customer once they came to your website. What do they go to next? And how did it lead? And then we can take a look back and say, hey, the assets and the programs and the things we're doing are helping, and this is what we need to do more of, and this is what we need to do less of, and it can help you adjust your program.
Now, your group is actually a more recent group.
Mm-hmm.
How did you justify the activities, right? I mean, I'm sure like any company, they try something out, and if it works, it's great, right? It can be great. Now, in SAP, you have a very long sales cycle, probably for most of the products that you're offering. So how do you prove that it works?
So there's many different ways, but to answer the first part of your question, so there was a new group that was being shifted, our campaigns team, into audience marketing. So you go to and sell to your audience versus by product line. So it's audience marketing, and that's a good group to do this in because you're really trying to reach a CHRO or CFO or CIO or CMO, because now everyone is buying technology. It's not just an IT function, so we really have to sell by audience. So that's a group that this could fall into, and somebody, they were doing a reorg, and so they said, we're really trying to reach customers. And so this started off as a comms job originally, and it was to do influencer relations, but I also have a marketing background, and I had been doing a little bit of both. And so we took it and we made it into, I said, let's do influencer marketing. Here's what it could look like. And everyone that I talked to said, this is amazing, let's do it. And then I said, well, can you give me some of your budget to try it out? And then I waited, and they said it was amazing, and I was waiting. And so finally, we got IT group made an investment and said, let's do a couple of pilots. So we started off as a little bit of a pilot program to pilot in 2 audiences, and it went really well. So an example of showing results is we did a webcast with an influencer. We took something that everyone is doing, and we added an influencer into the mix. So we had an influencer talk to the CIO of McLaren. And that webcast, we ended up with 4 times the amount of registrations we normally get and 4 times the amount of downloads we normally get. So that shows a direct impact in sales that, hey, this is an engagement, that this type of stuff is really engaging and is able to draw your customers in at a greater level than something else that you're doing that's very similar.
Oh, that's great. That's really helpful. So a 4X type of return. So now, Tehi, when you actually have a very distinct point of view with regard to different types of sales cycles, or the short lead versus the long lead, and that sort of informs your investment philosophy. Maybe you could talk more about that.
Right. As a board member, the thing that we're always excited about is when companies like beat and raise their plans. And if, on the flip side, if they miss their quarters, it's very frustrating and it's sort of tough. And what we found is that companies that have very short sales cycles are better at meeting plan and building plan and all that, because it's just much more predictable if you have a short sales cycle versus a long sales cycle like a year or something like that, and it's just much more unpredictable. And as a result, it's harder for us to fund. And so with short sales cycles, we found that basically technology, actually the modern marketing and sales technology works really well right now for short sales cycle deals. I mean, you could use Google, you could use social, you have all these different ways of building top of the funnel. You get this anonymous lead, then you nurture with marketing automation very quickly, you pass it off to an SDR, sales then comes in, you close, and if the entire cycle is less than 90 days, it's great. It's very predictable, it's scalable, and cost effective, sort of 3 words that investors all care about, So that works great. But then when deals have a long sales cycle, it just becomes each of those things become hard, and the traditional technologies that really worked I guess not traditional, the new technologies that really worked well in that use case seem to sort of fall in when you have long sales cycles. So what we've seen is companies adopt land and expand strategies. So you can take that long sales cycle and break it down into smaller pieces. But land and expand requires a certain type of product, other issues, so it's not immediately applicable. The other thing that we're seeing is the emergence of account-based marketing as a really effective way for companies with customers with long sales cycles to sort of nurturing it along the way. Because the default mechanism or the traditional way is to have a salesperson basically develop that account over a very long period of time. And they can do that, but the cost of effectiveness is very tough. And at board meetings, as I said, it really comes down to, on the go-to-market, 3 things, predictability, scalability, and cost effectiveness. And you just, with just using regular salespeople for long sales cycle, is that it just kills sales productivity. And those companies tend not to make it as a result. And it's becomes very difficult to fund.
Right, so that's sort of a way of saying, well, with marketing automation packages, something like Marketo or HubSpot or Eloqua are great for those initial cycles, and then you need to add an extension, which many of the key players have, plus some new companies, right?
Or just new kind of technologies and techniques, I think, are going to be developed.
Right, that's cool. So yeah, Rana, maybe you want to comment on that, because your company is typically longer sales
our sales
cycle.
cycles are very long, typically between anywhere from 9 months to 18 months or even longer when we're especially dealing with government. So with ABM, we have initiatives in ABM, which is account-based marketing. I guess we have done a good job in marketing, where I think we have most of the folks who are out there in security marketing in our database. And we've acquired them through our lead gen campaigns. So now we are sitting on that data, and then there are 2 parts to the whole deal journey. buyer's journey, which is, the initial part is where we make them aware, we generate leads, and then it's handed off to sales. But now marketing is more and more involved in the opportunity stages of the deal cycle. So our MBOs are no more, okay, how many clicks, how many leads. Nobody's, we are not, incentivized to generate more leads per se. It's in the end, it's about the pipeline and about, the revenue. And that is what we are also tasked with. So there's an incentive to do this targeted or account-based marketing. That's a new name, right, to it. So, I think we have been able to put together and use the CRM and Marketo to do, the ABM marketing.
Yeah, I think this whole area is you're going to see a lot of change and improvement because salespeople are great for doing human to human, and that's important, but very expensive. And so to the extent that those interactions can be automated, and once it's automated, it's usually taken over by marketing, is when you can really achieve scale. And so I think, every company, is going to be working on how to improve. That's part of the equation.
Any thoughts on that as well?
Sure.
Amisha?
So we have IBM at SAP as well, and because we do have that longer sales cycle, and one of my colleagues, Holly Sandoval, actually started a program called Moments That Matter, and thinking about from when you touch your customer to when they actually sign the dotted line, and even after that, where are the moments where they go from being just a potential lead to all the way down to becoming an advocate for your company? What are those salient touch points? What parts can you automate? And then where can you come in and really provide that value? And so I look at that and I think about influencer marketing where we can go just beyond awareness into lead gen, demand gen, nurture. And then once customers become your advocates, could they then become an influencer in this program? But then also can the power of our external influencers, advocates, and even some highbrow, the influencers that are SAP employees, if you pull that all together, what does that look like to really touch those folks in those accounts? You can even take a look at those accounts and we can see, they follow, those folks that are buying from us are following certain people. Who are they followed? Who do they think has the right answer to whatever problem they're trying to solve? And if we can engage with those folks to reach our customers, then it can create some really powerful motions for us.
Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to do now is ask if you have any questions. So I know there's an app that Ty has, but I don't see anything on the app. So if you want to sort of stand up and ask a question, maybe there's a mic that can come over to you. And I'm looking out, it's hard to see. Go ahead.
I have a very specific question in marketing, and that is about sales motions focused on enterprise sector. When you're trying to take out established player who already has its products, and I can't talk about what I'm doing a lot, but even though I have one of the best brand names in the world behind me, getting into enterprise space, trying to influence the decision makers already using a particular product line for a couple of decades. We have tried different kind of marketing techniques, and most of the time the salespeople come back and tell me, that's too tough, we don't want to do it. There's a whole ecosystem which exists. How do we disrupt it? It's a little bit of an open-ended question. We'd like to get your thoughts. I'm not looking for a specific answer, but your thoughts, how do you tackle that kind of a situation?
All right, so the question for those who couldn't hear it is, I may be a significant company, it might have a lot of, it might be a good-sized brand, but I'm trying to attack another player that also has, or is well established. And so how do I unseat, just like Chandra had put up the slide, how did Tesla come out and unseat BMW and Mercedes, right, for that luxury performance area? Is there tactics I can use or thoughts I would have about disrupting a space?
Right, and I'm already a good brand in one space, I'm trying to enter into a different space to disrupt the player.
Okay, you're great in one space, moving to another space.
So one thing that you can do is you take a look at the landscape and say, how can I become a voice in the community that exists, and how can I offer altruistically some kind of value to this community? And once you start becoming part of that community, then that is one way that you could break in and become a trusted voice there. That's one angle. And from my perspective, when we're talking about influence marketing, that's how you could become an influencer in that market, because you have credibility that you're bringing from somewhere else into a new market, but you should become a voice. Instead of trying to sell to people, try to connect and provide some altruistic value to them.
So, everyone's a media company in a way, right?
Yeah.
Everyone can publish, everyone can get it out there. And I think to all of our points, all the points you've heard, people like to find you, like to learn about you. I think it's something like 2/3 of companies, or 70%, of consumers or purchasers find you before you find them.
Yeah.
So Tehi, maybe you want to...
Yeah, I was going to say that one strategy that startups use a lot, because startups by definition have to disrupt incumbents, is to attack with thought leadership. And because startups don't have anything really, but they can become the thought leader. And the way to do that is, as I mentioned here, is as a voice of the customer and all that. But in connection with usually that there's a disruption between the old way and the new way. And the incumbents, by definition, have to protect legacy and all that. And so they're going to have to defend the old way. Or they can't be pure as to the new way. And so one effective way that startups work is to just really come in very hard as the thought leader of the new way, which is something that the incumbents cannot fully endorse. And by doing that, you become that thought leader.
I think
Also-
you had a philosophy around that, right? You had, I think it was like a very... How should companies market themselves?
Yes, actually, this is something I was going to say for the tagline
we
at
can
the end,
save it.
but no, I can say
We can
right
save it.
now is that the way talk to companies about how to attack with thought leadership is to market revolution and sell evolution.
Yeah, I had a comment there. So I think you have to inform your target audience about the differentiation. The older technology will always get replaced. And marketers by nature like to test new things. They like to optimize. By nature, they do this, with their messaging every day, right? So giving them free trials, approaching them on an early basis, and so that could work. I don't know the specific use case you have, but
Yeah, go in and try new things, get the
Yeah.
word out there, become the leader. Next question. Thank you. That was a great question. Another question? I see only in the front, so if you're in the back, you really have to stand up.
come
Go
on,
ahead.
backbenchers.
Yeah, so one of the things I think you talked about the B2B, certainly I think we can do a lot of stuff about free trial, get the data, everything, but at the end of the day, sales happens through the sales team and the way they're incentivized. So, you can, I don't know, so how do you bring that together, the fast marketing, getting out, get the data maybe, but can you touch upon some of the challenges where account teams may say, hey, you can't simply reach out as a marketing to my customer, it has to go through you, and some of the internal challenges around the existing pipeline and how they manage, and then how can you as a marketing, using the tools you may have, can actually accelerate that process?
All right, so the question is, if you have blockers in the way
Right.
in a particular sales environment, or particular marketing environment, or customer environment, is there a tool that I can use to break through?
Right, or how you use, because I mean.
Or
a lot of
capability
people-
to break through?
Right, a lot of
No, that's great.
B2B, is sales, as I think you mentioned that, it's about relationships and all, there is an existing way of selling.
Sure.
And an existing way of buying for customers too, right, so especially in IT side of things.
Right.
But you can use all the marketing free trials, get the data, but then how do you, and maybe enable, the sales to actually make that sales go faster, to your point.
So basically accelerating the process, right? Driving the
I just
process.
have one comment there. So
Absolutely.
sales today takes care of the transaction. The buyer is ready to buy, and how to deal with the terms, and how to get the money and the check and all that. Okay? Before that, it's all marketing, I'd say.
I guess what I see is that once the sales process begins and is part of the pipeline and the salesperson owns that account, salespeople get very upset if marketing, quote, interferes. I've heard it in board meetings where you got, the VP of sales then just pound the VP of marketing, and at the end of the day, at least in most companies, not all, the VP of sales wins out because the VP of sales says, I'm not going to make my number if you do that. So the challenge, and I think that's when I mentioned like ABM or these sort of long sales cycle, it's not just technology, but it's really that kind of organization workflow. It's like, how can marketing and sales work together? So what I see with some companies is like an ABM tool, which is, it does all this account development, but each message has to be approved by that particular sales account manager.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think, just to build on what you're saying, I think it's a partnership between marketing and sales. You're going to see more and more of that because that's how people will win. So it becomes almost a seamless process. And sometimes it's almost like asking the sales team, what is it that you need to win? Because they're on the front line. So we're a large company, so we have global, regional, and then market unit. And the action is really in the regions, right? That's where all the action happens. So we are constantly checking in and getting the feedback from sales and also from regional marketing. This is what we need. This is helping us close deals. This is not. And so then tailoring and working hand in hand. I think when you have that kind of partnership, that's how you're going to win, especially with all the digital transformation, with all the tools that's happening both in marketing and sales.
But the lines between sales and marketing is constantly changing right now. That's what makes it very interesting and why I think it's going to be, over time, be viewed as go-to-market rather than sales and marketing.
So you brought up one of those critical alignment questions. I don't know how many times we've run into situations where we thought clients had alignment between marketing and sales. You build a program, you get thousands of leads, you bring it down to an MQL and what you think is a sales accepted lead, and then the salespeople say, well, you gave me too many and they were useless, right? And then the marketing, the head of the GM says, what do you want me to do? Wrap it up in a bow for you, right? So it's one of those, but it's an important game to have everyone together in the beginning.
Yeah, a slightly contrarian view. I just came back to the U.S. after spending a lot of time in Latin America.
Awesome.
So the direct mail as a component of direct marketing in this country is just amazing. It's a phenomenon. It doesn't exist in any other emerging market, for instance, which is supposed to be behind in technology. Like $40–50 billion gets spent on direct mail with all this marketing and sales tech. What explains it? Are there some sectors of the economy completely untouched by all this?
Does anybody want to take a direct mail? I can answer it, but anyone want to take a shot?
Yeah, I mean, so we don't do much of direct mail. I think most of our budgets, I'd say over 90%, is all digital now. And in our market, I think direct mail is probably making a comeback in the sense like nobody else is doing it. So, if you get a piece which is like a physical paper or a card, a beautiful card, that probably differentiates you from the others, which are, like everybody's getting, like, Chandra pointed out earlier, about 2,900 messages, mostly digital messages, right?
I think what I've seen most recently is if people are using direct mail, there's a decline, but if they use it, it's always to direct you to some digital experience.
Yeah,
So I
that too.
think one of my colleagues got something, it was very smart actually, and I forgot the name of the company, it was a travel company, and they sent a room key to all their marquee customers, and you get it, you say, here's your room key, and enter this code, and you enter the code, and it gives you the experience of if this room leads to this experience, and it gets you very engaged in what they're doing. So I think
So
that's a
it's-
trend.
It's the integration.
Yeah.
The integration. Go ahead, Tehi, you had something.
And part of it just depends on the economics of the business. I mean, I'll tell you one story that was told to me, since stories are big today. She's a CIO of a $10 billion company, and she said that she got a FedEx package from one vendor. I mean, if you talk about targeted direct mail, here's a FedEx package that came in, and it's a personalized message related to a comment that she had made and so forth. It was sort of like almost like an inside joke, but because of the fact that the person went through all that effort and she was intrigued, she actually went and had a meeting. So, how much is it worth to have a meeting with a CIO of a $10 billion company, But in this case, it was that kind of personalized direct mail.
I have a request though, don't send cookies. I'm trying to lose weight. This last year, I got like, 4 or 5 packages of cookies from companies and businesses I don't do any business with.
But
I
wine
got a
is
whole
good,
case
right?
of root beer. the
Wine
other
is
day.
good.
Wine
Yeah.
is good.
I got a whole case of root beer.
I don't know,
To
you
use
may be
their-
getting a
use their
lot of
marketing
wine
relation
from
package.
this meeting now, to get meetings with you.
It's a good security message. Just to answer your question about direct mail, it is literally, I've been asked by a number of our clients to open up a direct mail group because there's so many sophisticated ways you can use direct mail, combining it with digital data to give tailored messages to other companies. And nowadays, there's even firms that can take your anonymous users and figure out what address they have. You know, so there's amazing stuff out there. There's another question over there.
Hi. Tehi, this is a question for you since you're very tapped in as a VC. Do you see marketing technology starting to go industry specific and more specifically in healthcare? It seems to be a very old school system of leads generation and making sales and things like that. Do you see marketing technology disrupting healthcare at all?
Yes, our view is that just like you see with CRM, the same will happen with marketing technology, that it will become much more verticalized, especially for high-value cases like healthcare.
Right, so they can also have the whole digital aspect to it as well, right? So it's not just reaching out to folks, but once you have them, there are apps that connect back and forth. So there's a whole explosion of these digital health initiatives in these companies. Any other questions? All right, so what we'll do.
Oh, I think there was one.
Sorry,
Yeah, she's right there.
I missed the hand.
Can you talk about a marketing technology that you're excited about right now?
All right, what's one marketing technology that you're really pumped up about?
Yeah, I can go first. I mean, so I do get a lot of, I get to see a lot of technology. With Marketo, I mean, we are Marketo customers. We send out a lot of messages too, thousands, actually in hundreds of thousands. So we get a lot of out-of-office mail, reply backs. They are in thousands. And they're a waste, right? That's what you would think. But I came across a company, ShiftRock, and what they do is they take that information, all the emails that are coming back, and they'll mine it for addresses and for names, and I'm sure they can do a lot more with that information. So so it's something really cool, and you can actually map out who reports to who, and who goes to vacation when, so, and who's responsible for what through that information, and it's almost free, right?
Awesome.
For me, I'm always excited, and I want to get more robust tools that look at the analytics of influencer marketing and the value that we can deliver through our programs and with our influencers. So instead of me having to put together 2 or 3 different tools together, it would be great to have one where you do identifying and tracking and then results all together. And it's getting more robust as these companies are growing, but I'm really excited to see where that's going, and as a customer of those vendors, what value I can get from those and those innovations.
So you have great tools, but they're not coming together in one.
Right, they're different tools that we have to use to put together and say, here's what's happening with your overall program from A to B, from awareness all the way down to advocacy. So.
All right, Tehi, you get to pick one
Okay.
of your favorite companies.
What I'm most excited about right now is the integration of AI and SaaS. I think that SaaS is about workflow, AI is about intelligence, and intelligence workflow is the trend that I'm personally very excited, and we've been doing a lot of investments in.
All right. One thing I'm really excited about is chatbots and AI chatbots. I really think you can automate and personalize the marketing and sales process with them. So why don't we do this just to wrap up, because I think it's time for us to wrap up. What's one takeaway you can offer entrepreneurs or early stage companies for how they can run digital marketing?
I can go first, yeah. So to all the entrepreneurs out there, when you're thinking about building a technology product, also think about how it will be serviced. Very important. So I told you about 40 tools, right, that we use, but we depend on our agencies, our employees to actually, and the companies to service those tools. They automate a portion, and we are able to do 100 times more work, but at the same time, each tool needs help. So think about how the customer service will be there and to help the customer.
I think the key takeaway, and I've been trying to talk about, is be authentic and provide value. So whether you're doing influencer marketing, any kind of marketing, become a voice in the community. You can become an influencer as well, but really think about who you're reaching and how you can provide value, and don't just try to sell, because that's a little bit inauthentic these days. So be authentic and provide value.
I would suggest that a startup should focus the digital marketing strategy, content, techniques, and everything about a simple message, and the message is how to make your customer into a hero.
Awesome, that's great. That's great. I would also suggest that a lot of marketing agencies have played with most of these tools. So, and they know the ones that are inexpensive and easy to try and easy to play with.
And there's a lot of free ones too.
And they know the free ones. So you may want to use that as a go-to point to just know, hey, what did you try? And they can tell you, before you get to the bigger company, what you can play with today and what works well. So thank you all very much. I want to thank all of our panelists here. You did a fantastic job.